I'm Joe Lenz, and welcome to the show today. I am here with Collin Frangie, VP Sales Rep with Ticor Title. Collin, how's it going, big guy?
Hey, fantastic. Couldn't be better. Thank you for having me on, Joe. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be on here with you and share a little title info with everyone.
I'm happy you're here. Hey, this is a big, 30 days coming up for you, isn't it? What's going on in your life?
Slightly big. Slight life change happening. About to marry my love, Emily Caston, soon to be Frangie. And August 15th, it's coming in hot.
It is coming in hot. Congratulations, man.
Thank you so much.
That's cool.
A little bit of planning.
Very cool. Yeah, just enjoy it all and do everything she tells you to do. So.
I don't have any other choice.
No, you don't. So today we're talking about title insurance, title searches, and everything that's going on in between. So, Collin, you're the expert with title insurance. Let's start off with, what's a property title?
Property title. So, just like when you purchase a car, there's a history of who owned it. The DMV keeps that title.
Right.
So property title's very similar. It's a record of ownership which is kept at the county recorder's office where your home is located. So that is kept nationwide at every individual county. That's basically what a property title is. It shows who owns the property.
So what's a title search? I mean, where does that come into play?
So title search. So why do you need a title search if it's basically an ownership, record of ownership? Well, since a home is worth so much, you could actually take out loans against your property, and it's quite common since most people purchase a home with a loan. So in order to actually figure out who owns the property, we got to know who they owe money against, because technically, if you owe money to someone, you don't own that property outright.
Exactly. So who completes that title search?
So, generally the title company, like Ticor Title, my company, we do a title search. However, you can do your own title search. That is not against the rules. You can go to the county and look through sometimes microfiche if the property was built before 1975, and I've done this. I've done this. I've gone to the county and I've looked through because we were trying to find someone who is a prominent ownership that was a famous owner on a title. So I know it's a fun task. Believe me.
So tell me, or tell our audience, what the heck is microfiche?
So microfiche are these little slides that you would see in like an old school film machine. They normally have them all clipped up. So you have to take them and you have to put it under this magnifying glass, and you have to look at it and you have to focus it on it and then look through the entire film. And then when you find it, you have to go and tell the county recorder's office which book and page you want, and then you take that and they give it to you. And that's microfiche. It's a great process, but that's what we do as a title company is we take those records and we make them digital, so it's a lot easier for you to look through.
The funny thing is we used to have those machines in our real estate offices back in the day, and there was this little index box, and you have all those little films in there, and that's how we would look up property. So how long does a typical search take, and who does that search?
So a typical search, so there's two answers for that. So a typical search, if everything's digital, right, that means that the property was built after 1975, so 1975 through current day, you're looking at 1 to 3 days, generally. Now, if the property was built prior to that, and it has not changed ownership since then, you're looking at about a week, because we have to hire someone to go down and do that microfiche search and compile all those records, and to hire that out takes a little bit more time.
So what about the property that was built in 1935 and it sold in 1956 and then it sold again in the year 2000 and now it's getting ready to sell again? Do they have to go back to 1935, or can they just take?
So
how does that work?
So if it has, like I said, if it has been insured since 1975 since then, so you said in the 2000s, then we can go back and use that old insurance policy to date down so that we can make it more timely. Correct.
So you can do that updated. So what happens if issues surface, and what would be a great example of an issue?
So there's a number of issues that could surface. One of which is we call them private beneficiaries. These are like private lien holders. In other words, I give Joe a loan for $50,000, and he uses that, and I put a lien against his property.
Right.
I'm now a private beneficiary because I'm not a bank or an institution, and Joe wants to go sell his home, but he's got this lien for $50,000, and he can't find me to get what we call a reconveyance because Joe is saying that he paid off this loan.
Of course I
And
did.
so, but I, being a private beneficiary, forgot to record something in the county saying that this loan is paid off, and that is called a reconveyance. That's what you record
Right.
when you prove that that loan is paid off. So he can't find me. He needs to pay this off. What do we do? Right? Because he needs to show that he has complete title ownership. So that's when I would normally come into effect and hunt me down,
Right.
so to speak, and find that private beneficiary to sell it off. Now that it can be a problem because it can hold up title,
Sure.
and we do preliminary title reports for that reason to make sure that we have everything taken care of.
So, and how are the costs determined? I mean, for a title insurance policy, how are the fees determined? What are the fees for that?
So the schedules are all filed with the state. So everything, all our fees are registered with the state, and they're predetermined by our attorneys, and then they increase by about 3% per year with inflation. So then that generally goes with the value of the home, because the more valuable a home is, the more that can be placed against it, and the bigger the policy needs to be.
And who's the governing agency for title insurance company?
Land title, the TLC, Tan Title Company,
Okay.
or the gosh, I'm drawing a blank right now.
State of California?
State of California.
Department of Insurance?
Department of Insurance, yes.
And
It's American Land Title. So there's actually two different title agencies within it that are.
Yeah, you're right about that. Now, we talked a little bit earlier is, the insurability, and then, and can I do my own search? And the answer to those was already covered. But the other thing is a lot of times when a home is changing title, escrow is involved. But the other thing besides escrow is that they're looking for buyer information as well. And issues can come up for the buyer on that property too, right?
So issues for the buyer can come up. They don't. I mean,
They're usually vetted out with the lender, but
I mean that's normally on the lender for
Right.
the most part. It can come up if there's some type of judgment preventing them from purchasing a property.
right,
And the lender could decide to pull it back.
sure.
So that's normally what it is. Normally we run the seller, and that's the biggest thing is the seller is can they sell the property because that's what the insurance policy comes up. Now the lender's policy, that might be the lender just pulling back the
Right.
reins on it.
So there's a preliminary title report. Tell me about that.
So the preliminary title report, it pulls the full chain of title, right? Does the property title search, and we're showing all liens and encumbrances that are against the property is recorded at the title, or recorded at the county. We use a program that runs not only the property but also the individual's name,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's pulling any judgments, right? Any liens, not just what's against the property or any deeds of trust. So it's a more advanced system that you might have access to because it's pulling multiple different databases against the actual person's name.
So this is a loaded question, but who should be reading those preliminary title reports?
Oh, I mean, you always bring your homework to your mom, right? That's what you do. We all should. Anyone part of the transaction, escrow, title, especially the agent,
Right.
needs to be reading it.
And it's a great little history lesson on that piece of property as well. Don't you agree?
100%. I love reading them.
I do too. I've always enjoyed reading them. And then buyers, you need to read it just to get because the easements are showing up. Why do I have a Edison easement behind my house when there's no electrical? I see no wires. Well, there's all that stuff's going on behind the scenes.
So that's underground.
Right.
Especially if you're developing, you're going to want to know what easements are on the property. You need to know that.
So, Collin, in closing up, is there anything you want to add? What have we missed? Have we missed anything in this conversation?
is there anything else you need to know? I mean, like, there's a ton of title issues
Right.
we can go over. I
Right.
mean, I could probably spend hours boring you to death and putting you to sleep.
Right.
But, I mean, taking title, that's one big thing that I'd like to stress
Thanks for
on.
bringing that up.
That's pretty huge because I need to go over that with a lot of people in our transactions. If you're buying a property with someone and they are not your spouse, you need to make sure it's in joint tenancy. That's very important. Or buy and put it into a trust immediately. If you're not putting it into a trust and you're buying it as a partnership, form an LLC. Do not just leave that as joint tenancy, put it into an LLC. So that's really simple. Don't put it in tenants in common. Don't leave it in that if you own it with if you own the property with someone else. Do not do that. Is the standard form of taking title. If you see on your deed it says your name as a single man and their name as a single man, or vice versa, however it is,
Right.
that's tenants in common. And if one of you, God forbid, passes away, your portion of the property is going into probate.
Right.
So
And the best thing to do is to see a family trust attorney and get your title squared away
Yep.
and hold title. And once I own a property, can I change title? Can I
Absolutely.
change how I own it, and what can I put it into a trust, and can I add somebody to it?
So that's a great question. So you can absolutely. However, if you're going to change your title, make sure to consult with your attorney
Right.
and your tax accountant right away. Especially if you're thinking about doing something that is not your immediate family. In other words, your husband, your wife, or your child.
Right.
Because that is a taxable transfer. I just had someone yesterday reach out to me asking me to do an accommodation recording deed for them to put their two boyfriends wanted to put their girlfriends on there.
Right.
Now, apparently they paid for part of the transaction and there was some miscommunication and they didn't get included in the transaction on the deed. So they wanted to do an accommodation recording and I told them, I'm sorry, I can't do that. It's one thing that do it if they're your family member, but
Sure.
if you're not married to them, that's a non-taxable transfer. You need to go talk to your attorney and talk to your tax accountant because you could be looking at some serious fees later down the road. And the best thing to do in those situations would be putting it in a trust.
Right. Well, Collin, I think we've covered the gambit on this thing, and I appreciate your in-depth knowledge and sharing that with us and answering all those questions that we had. Anything else you'd like to add as we close it up?
I think that's it. I think that covers it all.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for Collin Frangie with Ticor Title joining me this afternoon, and thanks for listening in. And don't hesitate to follow us and charge on. Have a great week.